very much to everybody for making the effort to come out this evening. I open these blinds so I can keep an eye, because that's blizzarding outside, then like we'll be going pretty fast through this. This talk, anybody who's heard one of the talks I've done in previous years, there'll be quite a bit of overlap, but it's like my thinking that's evolved throughout the year, incorporating some things that I changed in 2025, and then some other things that I thought after the fact I need to improve as well and change the way I do things. So for those people that I fly with regularly, don't be saying, "Oh, you don't do that." That is perfectly true. That is perfectly true. I'm saying this is learning from experience. I'll get on to me introducing myself. But first of all, let me get to understand you guys. So, can everyone stand up? Playing like reverse bingo. Participation. Just like I've got some tall ones. So good at the back. Right. So, sit down if you've been flying more than 20 years. Oh, wow. Sit down if you've been flying more than, what was it? 10 years. 5? You young people. Okay. 4. 3. 2. Yes. 1. Okay, so you've got quite a broad spread of experience. Stand up again? No. Can't have you idling around. Okay, so I've got more. I've got loads of things. Sit down if your total flying hours exceed 2,000.
Where's Martin?
Oh, there's one. Paragliding. 1,000. Okay. 500. 300.
We just don't know.
Don't you? 200. 100. 50. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Everyone back up. Right, this is number of flying hours in 2025. Sit down if you've did 10 hours or less. 10 hours or less. 20 hours or less in 2025. 50 hours or less. 100. So there's a couple of less than 200. So you've got quite a broad range of experience in duration, experience in number of hours and currency.
How many did you do, Richard?
340.
What? 300?
Yeah. Then that doesn't include stuff that I don't want. That's like, yeah. But anyway, I'll come on to that. That's the next slide. So this is about me. This was meant to be an amusing image when I was doing some acro training and fully twisted, and I've only just recently taken up acro training. I'll come on to the reason why. So it's just after this, I turned my head and I had a look round because it's the first time I thought, ooh, maybe I'll just check my height in case I need to throw. But I managed to clear it and get out. So yes, I was doing that acro training. My experience, so I started on hang gliding in 87 and then paragliding I think in 93. Mad keen for it for a couple of years, then family work came along, didn't do virtually anything until about 2017 and picked it up with a passion. Been retired 6 years, and so this is my main interest now. I spend a lot of time chasing this around. Annual hours I did 330, 340 last year, and I think I'm up at 3,500 hours in total. And training, I put quite a lot of effort into training because with my advancing years, I should have done another one. You know, sit down if you're under 75. I will be one of the ones first to sit down. I'm over 60 now. and I'm aware of my diminishing faculties. So as a way of trying to offset that to some degree, I do a fair bit of training. So the acro training for wind control and skills. I'm fortunate to be part of the British Paragliding Race Academy, and they help develop skills in terms of racing particularly, but also glider control, and then understanding everything about racing, but everything about paragliding as well. I'm also very fortunate to be sponsored from the equipment side by the Sick and the Wrong, the finest purveyors of paragliding in Keswick, and it makes a good brew as well. I would just draw your attention to this disclaimer. So what I'm going to say is just one view, and it's based on my particular perspective. So there's quite a bit different from myself, who learned to paraglide 30 odd years ago, and the newest member of the club. And so what I say is just my opinion now. I probably would have thought something completely different, and what I'm saying would have been different and not relevant at earlier stage of the career. So, please feel free to disagree with anything that I say, and certainly don't take anything that I say as gospel. Just maybe you'll smile, maybe there'll be a chuckle. I'll be happy if that's if I've got a couple of chuckles during the evening. I am from Yorkshire. That was an opportunity to cheer. I know
where's the solidarity? Well, I'm a Lancastrian, so you're not going to get any of that from me.
Let me just take a little hint on it. You know these new 7:30 starts and the 1 hour 30 duration was specifically asked not to go down tangents. Yes. That's directed at you. So from Yorkshire, maybe tight of pocket, but generous of spirit. And when we come on to talk about some of the tools that I use, they will be low cost and free. Flying area. So from Yorkshire, I live in Hebden Bridge, which is fortunate to be slap bang under the Manchester airspace. There's not many chances for doing cross-country flying. I should have sort of said that from the outset. I'm really interested in cross-country flying, going as far as I can, and chasing the league and stuff like that. So one of the beauties of paragliding is it offers lots of different opportunities. Pete, for example, I know just loves the aesthetics. He's not interested in the numbers. He wants to take beautiful lines. I'm just a numbers game of a guy. There's other people that enjoy flying in a more localized area, enjoying the flying and being able to get home for tea. And I'll save the innuendo for later.
Find ridge saws.
Yeah. It's a subgroup of the club, yeah?
Yes, definitely.
I live in Edmund Bridge, under the airspace, so I've got to travel to any site that's good for cross-country. The Dales, the closest for me is probably Windbank, about an hour's drive. North of the end of the Dales will be just shy of 2 hours. And I try and loosely set myself a limit of driving 2 hours to a site for 1 day's decent flight. I'll extend it in some times, like the Lake District gets a pass. I'll go there if there's a decent flight to be had. If there's like massive flights to be had, then I'll extend that as well. I may even have a slide on it.
You have got a secret weapon, haven't you, Richard? It's called a camper van.
There is no camper van, yes. But that thing, despite my Yorkshire tendencies, the Yorkshire tendencies come out nice. So for me to start that thing up and move it costs an absolute arm and a leg. So I don't move the wheels unless I'm going for 3 days. Okay. Where are we now? So what is big? What is big in terms of paragliding and cross-country flights? What do you think's
bigger than you've done before?
bigger than personal bests?
50 cases.
200's the new 100.
200's the new 100. All sorts of things like that. It seemed last year 300s were being knocked out of the park. So For me personally, I'm thinking big 200 kilometres, and what's that an image of? I'll come back to me in a second, I'm sure.
200k flights you've done last year.
Yeah, that probably is it actually.
Yeah, that's the 200k opener to Rutland.
Yes.
Harley, is there?
Yeah, that was the Parlick to Dunbar, Model Ridge down to Rutland, and then the
Malvern to Ipswich.
Malvern to Ipswich, and then Malvern's to wherever those two. Some godforsaken,
There was two there.
inactive railway station. That's what that was. I remember now. Oh yeah, he's on here, shouldn't I? And then I did 5 200 plus flights in 2025. That's what they are. And I pushed my own personal best up to 240 kilometres. Okay, this is getting all this itself, isn't it? So the talk is in 2 parts. We'll see how we're doing for time-wise. Maybe have a refresh of the glasses between the two. So during the planning, part 1 planning, I'm going to talk about, it's all about what your objective is, what's your purpose. And then with that in mind, going through the process of reviewing the weather and then determining what the options are, where to go for what sort of flights to achieve your objectives. Part 2, execution, it's a much shorter section. It's talking about the team flying. That particularly is where people say, you don't work like that. But anyway, so part 1, planning. This background is sort of the apps that I use when I'm doing the planning. But you start off with an objective. For me, this is back in 2024, and the year before I was I'm first in the UK Cross Country League. 2025 I was 5th despite scoring my best score because other people scored much better. But that's my objective, is to win the league. Motivated by Mr. Darwin, who said, well, 2's no good, you've got to do 3 to make it work, prove anything. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. So that molds and it guides what I'm trying to do. And, you know, the pals that in this room that I fly with regularly, we congregate around the general objective of wanting to fly as far as we can and do as well as we can in our local club league. Those coveted mugs, prized possessions, and if you drop it and you break it, you can't get it again unless we bring the new rule in. Bit of scheming. So win the league, and to achieve that objective, I think we would aim to score over 1,500 points. So you're going to need, does anybody need a quick explanation of what the UKC League? We've got some new, brand new, so very quickly, you scored on your best 6 flights of the year, and the next, I think, slide may explain this. So those flights are scored from open distance from point A to point B, how far you've gone. If you do a flight like that without any planning or declaration of where you're going to land, it figures out your best 3 return points and gives you that number. If you then do a circuit, be that a triangle or an return, you get multipliers for those because they're regarded as more difficult, and undoubtedly they are more difficult. And then if you declare a flight, which means you say up front, I'm going to start from wherever, and I'm going to go to this point, that point, and another point, you get these bonuses, the Brucey bonus.
Tesco points.
Tesco points. Multipliers are king if you're trying to win the league. You can see down here on the bottom row, a declared triangle over 25 kilometres gets a 3 times multiplier. Ooh. Well done. We should put it higher. Good man. Yeah, you've done.
Sorry, are they only UK-based flights?
Yes.
Yes, there is. The UKC League also has a separate league for flights done overseas, but this is for UK-based flights. So where can you do these big flights? Yeah, this is an overview of the airspaces that we need to work around, and you can see, you know, it limits where we can go and what we can do, and then overlaying with that the weather, you know, it's sort of bringing. There's only a small number of opportunities, or you know, they're not penny these things. Days when you've got the wind that allows you to go from one of these sites and allows you to navigate around these airspaces. So this is the opportunities quickly hacked together. I'm not saying it's comprehensive, but it's the main ones for open distance downwind routes. In the UK, we are blessed with a decent breeze most of the time, which means that triangle circuit flights are more difficult to execute, and there's fewer opportunities. But the places to do those are the main places to that big triangles have been executed from.
What about Dougie's North Wales?
Yeah, I guess on big I was looking at 100Ks, so that's very rare. There's not many people done 100K triangles in North Wales, Dougie being the only one. Well,
Richard, just clarify something for me, because for years I thought if somebody said they'd done a 60K triangle, it meant they'd done 60Ks, 60Ks and 60Ks. And that's not the case, is it?
that's the case. If they'd done that, they would have been the UK record holder for forever.
So it's
Total.
it's the total
2020 would be a 60K triangle. Okay, so that's where you can do the opportunity, where these different flight types can be executed. In terms of when you can do it, obviously not now, you know, when it's the days are short and there's snow coming down and there's lots of moisture and rain and precipitation. But when we get into March, and then certainly in April, springtime, that's when the cross-country season runs in the UK. The peak of it is from late March, beginning of April to, you know, first bit of September. And the good opportunities basically start high north and then migrate south, very roughly speaking. We would expect to see some good period of flying up in Scotland, maybe in April and May. Beyond that, nobody really ventures there because of the ridgy problem. So you could be flying in the sense of the middle of the year, but nobody goes because you get eaten alive by midges. And then as you go through late spring and into early summer, that's when northern UK north of England starts to come into its own. But you can see by just looking at the geography, it's much narrower in the north of the country. That's the limiting factor. You get sea breezes pulling in, whereas in the south of the country, you're protected from that sea breeze much better. But by the time you get into July, and certainly in August, it's much rarer to get good opportunities in the north of the country than it is in the south of the country. Southerners have it better. They're richer, they're wiser, they're wealthier, they're girlfriends, they're better looking. They're moving. Speaking from personal experience, then, because what I said about where, what we said. Oh yes, transportation at the time. I mentioned that 2 hours. So I do a 2 hours drive for if I think there's a good chance of a 100 kilometre flight. I go a bit further if it's going to be a really good flight, but then I'm focused more on, can a car share or is public transport an option? And then if it's going further afield still, then I'll be looking for it to be a multiple day job. From where I live to get to the north of Scotland, for example, you're talking 8 hours. So really, I'm on off up there if it's a 3-day job. Similarly, down to the southwest around Malverns and then the southern hills. That's not quite as far, but still got to be 2-3 days. Circuits, mentioned those earlier, being rewarded for difficulty to get these points multipliers. They're also rewarding because you get an easier retrieve. You're never that far from where you set off, generally speaking. Whereas if you've done a 200-kilometre flight from the North Yorkshire Moors at Model Ridge, and you've gone down to where are you? Rutland, Lincolnshire, that sort of kind of way. You've got a hell of a journey back. Or worse than that, if you just set off from Dodge Fell and go 200 kilometres in a northwesterly, well, you might be able to get back to Leeds at a reasonable time, but getting up to Dodge Fell is where you're going to be relying on the friends of I suggest. Tools. We can look around the room and see that there's a few tools. Oh, sorry, very droll. What am I thinking of? So these are free and low-cost tools. In the background, perhaps I'm sure many people will know what RASP is, but very quickly, Regional Atmospheric Soaring Prediction was originated in the sailplane community, and it's still run. The UK iteration of this is run by some sailplane pilots. Takes a lot of complicated weather data and tries to summarise it and present it in a graphical format that is easy to understand. And what it's really good at is giving you a big picture overview, but it does have some deficiencies, both the model and the implementation of that model. This RASP image you can see behind is run, the source of that is stratus.org. There's another presentation, XCPara, which basically puts those same images on a different underlying map, which I personally find is much better because with my failing eyesight, it zooms in, you can actually see much better there. So RASP is great, but it is renowned for being poor at forecasting clouds. It doesn't mean it always gets the cloud forecast wrong, but frequently enough to be frustrating. And I would say that's one of the biggest influences or changes in my weather analysis and planning over the last 2 years is to take other sources of information and try and harmonise and synthesise that with the RASP. So RASP is great for seeing that big picture, but it does have some downsides. So I've now tried to complement that with windy.com and another website. There's a free version, there's a paid version, but specifically the UKV model on Windy. I think there are maybe 7 different models. GFS, which is the same underlying data that RASP uses, ECM, WF, which is a European one, a few other quirky ones as well. But UKV is the UK Met Office. And personally, my personal opinion, I found it to be more accurate than the other forecasts for specific parameters, weather parameters. The reason for that is there's no great rocket science. On GFS, the model is there. The further out the model is from today, the larger the resolution it uses. 5 days from today, it's using 20 kilometre square grid reference. On the day, today's date itself, it actually does a resolution run at 1 kilometre. So the, what's that, 4,000 times more accurate? Or more detailed?
Way more accurate.
Yeah, way more accurate. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So that's fundamentally why it becomes more accurate. But GFS, being a worldwide model, isn't quite as precise as doesn't have the more as detailed information for the UK as we get from the UK Met Office. I misstated actually. It's 12 kilometre grid for anything over day 2. It's 4 kilometres for day 1 and day 2. 2 kilometres for today, but then there is a 1 kilometre resolution forecast, but it's useless to us because it only ever gets updated about 11 in the morning. And if you're going cross-country flying, you'll have set off from home and 6 in the morning or something.
But that's more for wave flying for sailplanes, is the 1 kilometre, isn't it?
I don't know, Pete.
Okay.
Don't know. RASP was great to complement that with the Met Office view on windy. Oh, I didn't mention SAT-24, which is the actual satellite forecast. So you look at that for what the actual clouds are doing. So we'll come on to the detailed process, but ideally they would align. You would look across these and say, oh, the SAT-24, there's no cloud over the UK at the moment. There's a big bank out in the Irish Sea. Oh, that's precisely what UKV on windy says. Oh, and RASP is showing that as well. And they all stack up nicely through the day. And you can see it marching in. So we'll start from the west of the country and we'll fly that way and we'll be ahead of the clouds. So that's ideal. That's not always the case. You could probably argue it's not often the case. And then you've got to try and synthesize and overlay these things. So really, in general terms, I would say RASP is overly optimistic, and these other tools will tend to reduce some of the opportunities. I mean, people have been flying cross country for a while. Many people have got many stories to say. Is this meant to be a 5-star day? You know, you've read across the country and you found yourself under a blanket of cloud.
Am I right in saying that RASP updates at 6 in the morning and 6 at night? Is that about what was it, 5 or
It
6?
updates at various different points, different.
Yeah, but
Horizons.
tomorrow's forecast is,
I'm mornings most.
yeah,
Yeah, it comes
So
through in a whole series through the night.
yeah.
There's one in the morning though,
But it,
early morning, and then in the evening as well. I think it's about 7 p.m.
Yeah.
in the UK.
Because you can sit there clicking, going, yeah, it's still the old,
Yeah.
it's still, oh, now it's updated. Is windy updated all the time? Does anybody know?
No, it isn't. It has its own update frequency in the, in the menu page. It'll tell you when it was last updated and when its next update is expected as well. And across the different models, you'll see all different frequencies of updates. I use Wendy, but I only Wendy. With Wendy UKV. I only look at UKV version in the UK. For those who are flush of funding, then there is SkySight, which is a paid-for alternative, which is it's kind of a RASP type overview system, graphical representation, and it's hands down it's better data than RASP is. I would say it's probably arguably the same. They don't seem to get meaningfully better results than by combining these two. But the big difference is you probably would spend less time if you were to pay 20 quid a year. This guy say, I'm just talking myself into it. Instead of spending 300 hours a year pouring over it, I could spend 20 quid. Return on investment springs to mind, doesn't it? Okay, so what is the process? Counterintuitively, we're going to start at step 2. So we're looking at windy, we're looking at RASP, trying to see how they correlate. On RASP, we'll look at the stars and wind. On windy, thermal clouds and wind. Thermals is a new layer that was introduced, still in prototype stage, so probably within the last couple of years. But clouds is really important because that's the thing that RASP is notably has gaps in. As I say, ideally these things correlate, and then you can say, oh great, I can just focus on RASP. If it doesn't correlate, then you've got to try and overlay it in your mind and say, well, RASP says it's going to be good there, but UKV says there's going to be some clouds, so we'll perhaps disregard that area and focus on another area. So you start by looking at the weather forecast. look at the options for where you're going to start and what type of flight you're going to do, whether that would be a downwind or whether it would be a circuit. One of the main differences between cross-country pilots and pilots who are tend to stay more locally is cross-country pilots will look at the launch site and they're only interested in getting up and away. You might hear cross-country pilots say, "Oh yeah, looks good from dog tomorrow." Blah blah blah, and then others will be stroking their beards thinking it looks like it's howling from a dog such and such. The cross-country pilots seeing that there's an opportunity before 10:30 in the morning to get up and away, and they're not really looking beyond there because they have no interest. They expect to be elsewhere. That's one of those key differences to be conscious of who you're speaking to and what they are talking about. So by looking at the weather forecast, you've got already in the back of your mind, you've got that big picture of the UK and where the airspace is and the different options where you could launch from and whether you're going to go downwind or doing the circuit. When you're doing downwind flights on a paraglider, we fly slowly. Our trim speed is about 20 miles an hour, a little bit more. So it's very difficult not very difficult, sorry, it becomes more difficult if you try and push away into the wind rather than going with the wind. To be 100% efficient on a paragliding cross-country flight, you want to fly purely downwind. Anytime that you're going crosswind or sidewind, you're losing efficiency. Circuit flights, you're expecting to be one direction and then coming back the opposite direction. So you need to factor in if there's any significant changes in wind direction. Personally speaking, I'll be considering circuits. If the wind is, this is boundary layer average wind I'm talking about here. If the boundary layer average is maximum 10 kilometres an hour, then circuits are, achievable. There's a certain level of difficulty, but then it's an acceptable level. As the wind gets stronger, it becomes progressively more difficult. That's not to say I've tried to do circuits in stronger winds, but it just becomes more difficult. And to achieve the objective, I find flying difficult enough as without making it more difficult by choosing to do things or planning to do things that make it harder. The RASP convergence. So one of RASP's key strengths is the way it's visualizing the convergence lines. The easiest and most obvious one to see is the sea breeze convergence in the middle of summer. You see the sea breezes sort of marching in from the south. Now, I'm not saying I'm planning, that I'm going to be at this particular intersection of a road junction to catch onto the convergence line at that point, and I'm going to ride that convergence following the road for such and such amount. It's just giving you a general feel of the day, is that how strong that sea breeze convergence is, but there are convergences all day, every day. And it's just to see if they're going to be pronounced and they should be looked out for and exploited if the opportunity arises. So then we get on to coming up with a plan. So we know where we started from, we know what sort of flight we're going to do, and then we're going to plan the end of that flight. And this is a process that I go through not quite all day every day, but nearly all day every day. When there's not anything more interesting to do. No, I think it will bring on to the first step. So these steps here is just planning for days ahead. But the first step is when you've been through that cycle, say yesterday, and you expect today to be a good flying day, you've come up with a plan. So bright and breezy on day 0 today, 6 o'clock, the first thing you do is you're going to look at the SAT24 cloud actuals and say, how's the clouds fitting actually compared to what I'm seeing in windy, and does the plans still stack up. So that is the planning room.
Why is that stage one then? I don't get that. Why is that not stage 6 or 5?
Because it's the first thing you do in the, if you're on a flying day, that's the very first thing you do. But it's not relevant except for,
yeah, but it's the last thing in your planning process, isn't it?
well, no, because you've got to, once you've done that, you're rechecking everything.
You do everything again.
Yes, yeah.
Goes next section.
This will give you some extra data.
Yeah.
So you say, what are the actual clouds? How does that compare to windy forecast of clouds? Because if they, at 6 o'clock in the morning, they're natural, you say, well, in the absence of any other information, I'm going to trust that forecast there. If they're completely different, I've got to rethink this.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Richard, can I just a quick question? Because I've never done it. See, do you have like a paper map in front of you that you're writing notes on as you're doing? So do you listen to a flight computer? How do you record all your thought processes in your route that you're going to take?
Well, I make little notes and I'm sort of going through.
Yeah.
But
Once you've made a decision, you've already decided what you're going to do, haven't you?
yeah, I mean, come on to the end of the process is to actually plan the flight out and then get it into the flight computers. I mean, for within the group that I fly regularly with, then we share ideas of the flying, our thoughts for the days ahead. And a few other people outside of that group had asked if I would share my view on the forecast going ahead. So I've basically got a Telegram broadcast channel now, do a little video showing, mostly it says what I've decided to do rather than discount it, but sometimes I'll include the option that I've considered and then said, oh, I don't think that's okay because of such and such. So the daily routine doesn't leave much room for any other part of life. Certainly no work opportunity.
Yeah.
So this is on a day that you're flying, up bright and early, you're going to check the actuals and confirm your plan. Hopefully it's going to be correlating with what the previous evening's forecast is. And generally speaking, it will. You know, the closer you get to the day that you're talking about, the more accurate the forecast becomes. I would say, beyond 2 days out, then it can be probably frustrating if you're thinking, oh, there's a cracking day coming a week on Friday. Well, maybe, maybe not. Yeah, root for frustration. So, bright and early, get up and check the actuals. If you're not flying now, over my breakfast, I'll be looking at these sort of things. So, I'll be looking at options for the next day and then the week ahead, putting less emphasis on each of the days that are progressively further out from today. Then checking again in the evening, and if we're expecting tomorrow to be a good day, that's where those options that have been considered earlier are then narrowed down, finalised. We're talking, you know, if it's midweek, I'll be messaging people, trying to drum up some interest from the gainfully employed. Most of them say, no, I hope it's terrible. But yeah, again, flying is difficult enough, but if you fly with a group, it can make life a lot easier, both the flying side of it, then the retrieve side of it, just the enjoyment of it goes up as well. So that's where I'm trying to generate some interest there. And in that evening point, then we're working out, are we car sharing, work out the logistics of who picking up where and where we're meeting and where we're leaving cars at which train stations, etc. As I say, kill up your enthusiasm if it's anything more than a day.
It's a bit of a bugger if you get 2 consecutive good flying days then, isn't it? If you're not home until 1 o'clock in the morning from today's flight or yesterday's flight.
You just got to adapt, haven't you? Do your planning on the train. Done that many a time. I'll now just drop down and show you a little bit more about each of the tools in turn. So this is the thermal view of in Windy. I would say it's the closest thing closest analogy in the windy tool to what RASP has. And this tool gives you a view of the wind direction. The colours give you an indication of the cloud height. Now, what you can for sure say in the UK, I'm not sure what these colours is. That's in thousands of feet, and you would say, oh, orange there, it must be like 10,000 feet. Oh, no, maybe 9,000 feet. You certainly want to say cloud base at that level. It might be indicating cloud tops, but the more orangey, the deeper the red colour, the higher the clouds, the higher the thermals in general. I guess that's another learning opportunity for me, is to figure out, read the manual and find out what it actually does mean. But this is giving you a good overview. You've got a number of bits of information. I think actually, if I press this button, it will explain it to us. So we've got the clouds, cloud coverage, fairly intuitive. The one thing that is slightly less intuitive is the grey shading is overcast. So you don't really want that. Big clouds and lightning, you can take them or leave them, can't you? What else it tells us? It tells us about the wind.
I got the highest thermal top shown in the Highlands, but it looks reasonable throughout Scottish Lowlands, Northern England, down through the main body of England. As we progress through the day, we've got a few patches of overcast. We've got the incursion of the sea breeze from the eastern coastline, primarily. And some breakdown to suspect there might be some rain around.
I didn't say that's enough for that. But yeah, so that was just an example of like one of the snippets of video that I record, explaining my thinking. And I do that basically to share my thinking, so then other people can say, you missed this. Because I know other people approach weather analysis and forecasting, and well, shouldn't use the word forecasting. Forecast is what I look at. All I'm doing is reading and analysing those. But other people have different approaches to analysing weather forecasts. They'll look at skewed diagrams, which is fantastic if you've got your mind tuned to read and understand those quickly. But I would argue it doesn't give you as much information, doesn't give you the same information as you see from this picture, because looking at a skew T at a point is all very interesting, but it doesn't tell you what's happening here, and it doesn't show you very quickly how it progresses during the day. But they can often pick up some detail that might be missed in this broad brush approach. Many a time, Pete said, "Oh, look at the skew T, top left-hand corner, top right-hand corner, this time of day." Oh yeah, good point. UKV cloud, there might be another noisy video. Maybe, or maybe not, we'll see. But it might just be animations and the PowerPoint. So this is the cloud view in windy. Fairly obvious. If it's, white, then that's the depth of the cloud, and if it looks, transparent, then real cloud. So that's a clear, that's thick cloud, not partial cloud. We look at the thickness, we look at the depths, high, medium, low.
Looking at the cloud, just a few little patches, nothing of any great note, but we can see some shadows bubbling up.
Any questions on cloud? If not, I'll move on to RASP, both the Stratus and the XC Para version of it. So look at the Stratus, the original one, to give you the country level outline view, and then XC Para looking at more detail. This is like a standard image from RASP showing the wind. So, it's very easy to see that you've got broadly northwesterly across the entire country, and it's stronger on the east coast than it is on the west coast. One thing you can easily be tricked about not tricked, but you need to pay attention to, is that the scale, the wind speed scale, which is colour coded, is not the same every day. It's graduated for the day, for the strongest wind that it's portraying on the day. So interesting, the scale's not on this, but the pink, that colour there, probably the strongest wind on the day, that could be 100 miles an hour, which would mean here might be 20, or that could be 20 miles an hour, which would mean this would be next to nothing.
Is that just the average? Is that, or is that only not on the whole 10 meters above the ground wind as well?
The scale.
It's the scale.
Scale changes the both.
Yeah.
But because we've got it shows such a big picture, we end up with it looking pretty similar all the time. We get away with it.
So, Richard, can you explain, or can anybody explain, and I've asked this question loads of times, what the lines mean? Because they're not isobars,
No, there's lines of wind direction.
the wind direction.
Yeah.
But why are they closer together or wider apart? What's the relevance? Because it's not wind speed.
Oh, I don't-
I think it's trying to show areas where the wind is causing convergence,
Why are they not isobars?
and that might be because of landscape.
You're using the colour there as
Yeah.
the speed. So it's stronger on the east coast than the west coast.
Yes.
You look at the lines.
Yes,
They're all equally spaced all the
Yeah.
way across the country. So they're not isobars.
No, they're definitely not ice.
So they show the direction for sure.
Yeah.
But there must be some relation to the amount of them, because sometimes they're far apart.
Yes,
Sometimes they're quite close together, and it doesn't add up. It doesn't go hand in hand with the wind strength.
Good
And
question.
I've never known what
Good
the
question, and I
actually
don't have
mean.
the answer.
I'm glad you said that, because I ask loads of people, and everyone goes, "Oh, they're just this," and
Yeah.
it doesn't add up in my head. I do not get what those lines actually mean.
And if you can bring
Other than
answer
direction.
next one,
Okay.
that'd be grand. Yeah, very much.
It's in a
As
bit
to it
of
being
25-year-old code that you can read.
This is a tangent, Pete.
Maybe.
This is a tangent.
Okay, XC
They
parallel
look really
presents,
important to me.
presents the same image but on a different underlying map, and it zooms better. It's also got a number of other tools. You can click and show the airspace. You've got buttons that will, marginally or arguably easier to progress through the days. But you've got some planning tools in there as well. Main thing for me is the map and planning tools. SAT-24 for the actual cloud. This is just a processed satellite image. This isn't what the actual satellite sees. It enhances the colours, but you can see that it's showing you the cloud, where it is cloud and where it's not clouded. Why is cloud so significant to us? It's off the sun. It cuts off the sun, exactly, which is the source of energy that we.
So why are you SAT-24 instead of windy?
Does that have a satellite view?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. Yeah, thank you very much.
It's got a really good one.
For now, though.
They show the pictures in yellow.
It's got satellite plus it'll do future forecasting as well.
Right.
So it'll actually go based on the satellite. This is what it might do.
Before one out, only one out, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's useful.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you live and learn. That'll be in next year's presentation. The update, I've done with those. Cross off SAT-24. Sounds like the larger
version, isn't it?
I don't know. Like,
Oh, no.
that's a comparison, side-by-side comparison of what the forecast, the UKV forecast was in windy versus what the SAT-24 image was. And you can see there's some correlation, that there's a gap there, which is also evident in the forecast, but the forecast had this patch here being thicker, it's sort of broken up. This patch here looks largely the same, but there's more clear area there than there is here. So I would say this is broadly in alignment. So except this that's approaching from the west seems to be less thick than we've seen on the forecast. So we're looking to cross-check and validate that. The worst thing is if the actuals are way different from the forecast, then you've got to just make it up as you go along. But route planning. So we're looking at that weather forecast to see where's the good place to start, and then what sort of flight we're doing, whether we're doing a circuit or whether we're going downwind. As I say, if we're doing a downwind, the weather only needs to be good to get up, not from there. It doesn't need to be good all day. You just want to be flying in some decent air. Yeah, start point, and then we're looking at the duration and the wind direction, particularly for downwinders. Obviously, the duration, the flying day, is greatest in the middle of summer when the days are longer. Often, the biggest flights. I was going to say often it can be up to 10 hours. Up to 10 hours, I think is 10 hours is probably the longest cross-country flight in the UK. The biggest flights that have been done in the UK have probably been done in 8.5, something like that. But I think as people start to push those records and these distances even further, well, firstly they've got to find a route that's going to give them that, but then they've got to look for the hours in the day to be able to do it as well. Once we've got the start point, then we need to do the planning. We can talk about the duration, and then we need to plan it hour by hour. So where we expect to be, what we expect the conditions to be, both in terms of how thermic it is, and then the wind direction. Bearing in mind the navigation, both permanent, as was presented on that map, and temporary airspace that we get notified through NOTAMs. As I said before, any kind of going against the wind is difficult. If you're just going like 5 degrees either side of the wind direction, that's not too bad. But if you're going 90 degrees to the crosswind, or worse still, pushing into wind, then it really is making things more difficult than they need to be. Question is now. Yeah, destination. So we're working out where we're going, starting from, how long we're flying, what route we're taking, and then we start to think about where we're going to land. For me, easy retrieve is a priority, unless, and this is something I'm trying to do a little bit more, because one of my big failings is I have a plan and I just fly to the plan, or do anything to the plan, not just fly it, but if I've got a plan, I stick to the plan. I find it difficult to adapt on the fly. But if there's an opportunity for some kind of personal record, then I say to myself, well, you can just push on and worry about the retrieve later. Other people who are more free thinkers, more confident people, just care not a jot. They will just fly on and worry about it when they land.
Which, sorry, hopefully this isn't down a tangent. A lot of the books about cross-country flying are written by pilots and probably flying downs. And we'll talk about the flow of the day. You can sit in that. I'm very lucky my father's now, so I can sit. I know flights. I don't know a few of them, but I know which ones theoretically work because of the slope aspect where the sun is. It's very time of the day. It's obviously a lot less green. One of the things as a sort of just pilot, very low hours, I'm fairly terrified of, very wary, is lee side, which in the Alps is going to be a big issue. A lot of the stuff north to south, northwest, southeast, we're going to be flying with thermals that are predominantly lee side in terms of the aspect of where the wind's blowing. How is that in terms of execution? For me, I haven't flown XC because I've not been allowed to. In execution, if we're going Dales, northwest, southeast, when we're in the terrain and relatively close to the terrain, is there any pitfalls in execution from lee side and the nature of the thermals that newbies need to watch out for?
Well, the stronger the wind, the less your appetite for any terrain should be. Now, if you've got light winds, then the terrain isn't going to be an issue. But if you've got winds of 15, 20 kilometres an hour, you're going to get substantial rotor. So lee sides, and obviously caused by turbulence. The stronger the wind, the more aware you need to be of the terrain you're going over. basically the higher you want to be more.
In practice, do you find that the thermals are very unstable due to the fact that they are mostly going to be generating, because the sun's going to be coming from the south and we're flying from the north, so they're always going to be lee side of some form if they're generating from a slope.
So the lee side thermal is just about where the source of the thermal. The thermal itself, once it releases from the ground, will drift with the wind. It's not coming against the wind like that. Lee side thermals will often be stronger and more well formed than upwind side thermals, because the wind is blowing that warm air. If it's behind a hill, it's got a chance to cool and warm up, and then it releases more vigorously.
So other than the fact that obviously we don't want to get stuck behind the terrain on the side, because there's going to be roads there, the thermals, they are what they are.
I think I would say in the Dales, we don't have any really sharp edges and we don't have high hills. So we don't have the same blocking effect as much. So as long as you're flying sensible, so as long as you're flying sensible wind speed, and I don't think you're going to have a lee side issue in the Dales at all.
And you'd hope as well to catch in mid-high.
In
the middle of Clyde Basin, the hills. So
There are places in the country where you can, you end off the back of
Lake districts.
Malvern or something like that. It's a knife edge ridge. On a windy day, you're going to get a lot of the roads behind there. But in the Dales, it's rounded, sensible wind speed, not okay.
And broadly, way more benign than Alpine. Average day for average day.
But Richard, when Richard's planning downwind dashes, you won't be thinking about ridges at all, will you? You'll be hoping you're up at base as much as possible. It's only probably for triangles in the Lake District that you're thinking maybe the ridge, maybe convergence.
Generally, I'm not really planning on ridge lift to feature in any flight. You're aware of the terrain because you will typically high points are going to release in thermals, so you will fly via those high points in the ground, be that just a small little hummock down south or some big old hill or some big mountain in the Lake District. Broadly speaking, flying in the UK, well, certainly in England, other than a couple of areas, is flatland flying. The vast majority of it is. Ideally, you get up from a hill, you get high, and then your altitude above the ground means you're not worried about the terrain. You're just using the terrain features to predict where is more likely to be generating or releasing the thermals. Right, route planning. So XC Para comes in here. It's got a tool, so you can. This is actually a screenshot, but effectively it allows you to draw a line hour by hour. Well, you can actually don't have to be hour by hour. You can do whatever. But the process I use is to go hour by hour. So if on this day, well, I've got 2 arrows already drawn, so I must have expected to start flying at 11 o'clock, and then the wind. I expect to fly in that direction, but also that distance in that particular period of time. And there might be, or maybe not, maybe in a bit, there might be a little table to show that. In XC Para, you can flip between the wind direction and then the different overlays. So I'll be flicking between the wind direction and the stars. Stars is just an overall summary, multiple of many parameters indicating how thermic it is. As I said, it's generated by, it originates from sailplane pilots, and their tolerance for flying below greenhouse altitude, for example, they degrade the stars markedly for that. Whereas it's kind of okay for paragliders, 1,000 meters, we bobble along at that height because we can land pretty much anywhere. Sailplanes, it's a lot more challenging for them. So you can have lower cloud-based days that are better than you might have thought from, or better than RASP forecast. The RASP, the main RASP image has a a foot launch stars, which basically degrades the stars if the wind speed is above about 8 miles an hour. I personally find it's a bit too cautious in that scaling back the enthusiasm. So I just look at the normal stars, and then I'm separately looking at the wind and making my own judgment there. Now, this is another area I'll just give say this stress. This is a personal opinion about the wind strengths. Kind of ties into that point you were making earlier. For me, I am comfortable in flying a boundary layer average wind of say 30, 35 kilometres an hour. I have done, and it's been okay. I'm not at all suggesting that is suitable for any other people. I'm just saying that's where I am in my particular situation. However, if it was blowing 35 kilometres an hour on the hill, it would be challenging to launch. But even a 20 kilometre an hour forecast wind is pretty blinking breezy. But one thing I learned this year particularly, early in the season we got to a site and it was Model Ridge, and we walked to the front, stuck our nose in the wind and thought, oh God, that's well blown out. I think we went and had a coffee or mulled around. And then somebody, one of the group, just sort of brought the wing up, took off and proved that it was perfectly soarable, absolutely no dramas at all. And the rest of us then scurried to take off and join him. So where you see an average, and then you've got, if there's a gust that's a thermic gust increasing the wind strength, it will also be a thermic lull. So you can use those lulls as opportunities to be able to launch safely in those stronger winds. And as long as you're not getting blown back into the rotor behind the terrain, then, well, be conscious of the safety side of it. The stronger the wind, the more you need to be conscious of terrain risk. So yeah, this is route planning hour by hour. You figure out where's the wind going to blow me, where I am in relation to the good air mass, and plot yourself by hour. Yeah, that's just showing the same thing. This estimating the speed over the course. So on this particular day, what was it showing? Wind speed was averaging 25 and the thermal strength was 2 meters a second. So by some mathematics that I've forgotten where I came up with them, I reckon the average speed over the course should be 46 kilometres an hour, and speed to glide, the optimum speed to glide should be 45. Interesting that they're quite close together, but on other speeds then there is some slight difference. In reality, it's rare that I get above, I don't recall cross country where I've been above 40 kilometres an hour speed over the ground. So again, that's another thing I need to factor in. It's the degrade of faculties over time. As I'm getting older, I'm getting slower. So I'll probably have to age dial on my scale that down a little bit.
Richard, the glide speed, there's 245s and 254s.
Yeah.
But for different climb rates.
I don't have an explanation of that, Peter.
Okay.
Here and now. Feel free to calculate your own tables.
I shall.
Yeah. Yeah, so some of this to say, not just kind of make it up as I go. I kind of have the intention of doing it, or I've had an idea of doing it, and then I'm just plodging everything.
This is what you do on non-flying days, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you compared that? So you've got like 46. Have you compared that against your flights? You say it's what I'm expecting to do, and then you look at your average speed. Does it?
It's not something that I do diligently, but the occasions when I have looked at flights, I can't remember one that's been, other than when I'm racing, because that's different. But just when you're doing cross-country flying, it's the fastest flights tend to be just less than 40 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
And much more mid to low 30s. And that's obviously that speed over the ground, so it takes into account wind drift as well. I mean, and the real reason behind that is, like a lot of UK pilots, I hang around in weak cliff too long, and it's much faster to glide, find strong, climb and push on. Covered that bit as well. Goal selection. So, on this particular day, we were flying from Model Ridge in North Yorkshire, and yeah, it's like the modern rails train spotting, isn't it? A lot of my flights are planned to land at a train station for ease and retrieve, and the wind was roughly north-northwest in this direction, which is quite handy because it puts you on the East Coast Main Line. So you've got 3 good options. I think it was early in the season. I haven't got any particular long flights already in the bag, so that will factor into it as well, how ambitious I want to be. Again, having reflected on that, then perhaps you need to be more ambitious in the beginning part of the year rather than settling for, something that's more comfortable. Back to the Yorkshire routes, looking at the rail card for sure. Oh, that's one of the great bonuses of being over 60 is the senior rail card. Paid for itself many times over. A little tip and a trick really on train stations. Obviously, usually it's going to be more expensive the longer the journey. Not always the case. Sometimes getting starting at a little station, a small station, will allow a much cheaper price than from a mainline station. You can definitely use one of these or both of the multiple apps that do the train splits, split tickets.
It totally didn't break the bank coming back, did it? From Rutland, the train prices. Yeah.
So what did decided to go to Grantham in the middle of the 3. And then, so we go to Grantham, we know there's a station there, then we're figuring out where precisely we're going to try and land. So it's in my nature to like the planning side of it, although people don't. That's part of the reason I think that I'm allowed to fly with some of these guys, because I wasn't planning for them, but I do a lot of the planning and I don't have to do so much. But at the end of a long flight, I want to have it in my mind that the goal field, it's just an easy glide in, or if it's going to be something tricky, then I've already had a look around for what those obstacles are likely to be. Obviously, at all times, you're going to be diligent for where you're going to land and making sure it is suitable. But if you've done some preparation and you've had a look through the satellite view and the street view, because there can be distinct differences there. I've seen, housing estates pop up which don't show on one or the other of these maps. And big pylons, you have to be really diligent to pick those up on satellite viewing maps, but you can see those in street view reasonably well. Anyway, so we're going to land in Grantham, and I've just all this area is built up, so I don't be coming in on final glide over these built up areas, because the slightest of mishap and you'll be ending up in through somebody's roof. So really those are no-go areas for me. I'll be trying to get as close to the station as I can, and in this instance we decided that would be the optimum. So the routine is coming from the slightly north-northwest, so you can just clip the very edge of that or skirt around it and come in. You've got a nice patch of fields there, and I think that was like 1.5 k's from the station. I would have been aware that there was a green space there. So if I've sailed in here and I'm in orbit 1,000 meters or something, and I could glide another 10 k's, then it's relatively low risk to head to a closer station. So I might have already had that in mind, but the chosen goal field will have been with the sort of lowest risk or a low risk option. once we've decided on the destination, program it in, start and finish into the FlyXC app, generate your link or your QR code, and then share it with the people that are coming out and flying today. FlyXC.app is the tool that we use for this. Obviously, this is showing up all your airspace so you can understand. So if, for example, you're flying from Dodfell, getting past Leeds Bradford airspace is one of the keys. And you often find that you will be pushing against some kind of northerly component. So giving yourself some gap at this point so that you're not pushed right against this hard edge makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so comparing options. So some days it might be obvious that there's just one best opportunity. Other days there may be a couple of different opportunities. So then we look at and compare and contrast those different options. Again, I don't do this diligently. I've started to do it this year, thinking, trying to methodically compare. So look at the start of the opportunity or the probability of getting up and away. Then if there's any difficult parts, navigating around a bit of an airspace, for example. And then during the peak of the day, you would expect things to be the easiest if it's the peak period of the day. And then the end, is it going to be, how long is the end going to last? Giving you an overall estimation of success for that day. What I've got showing up here. So Tuesday the 20th, I don't know which day, which month this was. There were a couple of different options though. 250k downwind from Dodd, and the overall probability of success 60%. So a 60% chance, 312 points, 250 times 1.25. It's going to take 16 hours at the time from me leaving the house, flying the flight and getting back there. 11.7 points per hour. Compared to option number 2 at 11.14 points an hour. So look at all that, and then you talk with your mates, and then somebody says, I'm not going to the mall, so I can't be asked for that. Okay, it's Dodfell then. Or the other way around. Here's another thing. Everyone's got their own biases and prejudices based on where they are and what time we've got to get home for tea and taking somebody to Cubs Scouts or wherever they're going. All sorts of commitments come in there. Make your decision. We've already done that. Where we go. All the week ahead scheduling. So mainly looking, get an idea of opportunities, and so then you can begin to plan your life. Got some dangerous lipo batteries at home. I've got to dispose of.
Yeah, I thought that was the alarm for the break. Huh?
Yeah, almost. What time are we?
Beer o'clock.
8:45.
8:45. So this may be a talk in one part, not two. Because we're finishing at that now. Yeah. Right, yeah. We'll be going for like 2 minutes before 9 finish. As I said before, don't get too caught up in any forecast beyond a couple of days out. It's just a recipe for disappointment. But if you're seeing a string of good days together, then you would expect there to be something in there. If you see one good day, a couple of, say 4 days out, basically it's a good piece of air, a good air mass that's coming in. So that could be a day before, a day behind. It could be 500 kilometres north, it could be 500 kilometres south. That is the vagaries of the forecast system. But looking that far ahead, for those people with normal lives and work and all these other commitments they've got to juggle around, it adds, give them the opportunity to do some negotiations and work out, build a few brownie points on Monday so that they can slope off on Friday. So that you're ready when those opportunities do arise, because they don't arise all the time. I think I had around about 30 cross-country flying days in the UK in 2025 between, and I was focused on that, April to August. So, there's not many opportunities really. Probably, what's that work out at, 2, 3 a week? Something like that. What's this? Oh yeah. So just looking at I was just summarising Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The future. Oh, this is the future for flights. So start early, most of the day. This is a track log from Dean Crosby, one of the best paragliders the UK has ever generated, who's now flying a sailplane. And this was a 752 kilometre FAI flight in his sailplane. But the key that I wanted to emphasise, he set off at 2 minutes past 8 in the morning. Sailplanes use thermals just the same way that we do. They have a marginally better sink rate. But if they can set off at 8, then we should have been able to set off at 9.
But launch.
Well, he was.
Is it an air turf?
Well, I don't know. Somehow we got into it.
Toe from start to back, so.
Yeah, so it starts off at the base, basically.
Starts off when the
He said it's pretty desperate going across the Peak District at the start.
Right.
He got down to 300 feet in a 7th flight.
Yeah, he has a motor in his plane.
He did.
Yeah, yes. To get out of jail for
not used them that far.
So he says.
well, not that you know, they tied into the IGC, didn't they?
Yeah, it will show up in the
IGC. Anyway, the point of, does it really illustrate the point I'm trying to make? I think we've got to push boundaries to fly further. We should be looking to start earlier in the day so that we've got more hours, basically. When viewers in the room did a trip to Brazil a couple of years back, and we were launching, the earliest we were launching before 7 in the morning and flying for 12 hours. And what I came away from there learning is you're up and you're away, and we're just basically limping along. As long as we're not feet on the deck, but we're still flying until the day catches up, and then it gets a bit better and you get a bit higher, and then you get woofed along. So the same principle applies in the UK. Not quite 7 in the morning, but you're starting at a time of the day where it's not as booming as it's going to get to be. But if it's good enough to stay up, to get up and stay up, then those are the opportunities. So having said all that, it does make it difficult. Those against my flight's difficult already.
Do you know the road at least? Start for a good flight?
In the UK? I think it's 4:10 very occasionally. I think that'd be the earliest, but I don't know definitely off the top of my head. Where are those records going to come from? Well, somewhere on the west of the country, going to somewhere on the east, or somewhere in the far north, coming south, the Mont Ridge. That is the end of part 1. And given the time constraints, I think we'll wrap it up there. We don't need part 2. Time for a few questions if anybody have any.
What was the sound from the last slide that you were on for
It's that one west of Longming.
Langos. Oh,
No, Langos is down here. We've been to it once or twice.
It's not solid, is it?
No,
No.
it's a big ass hill.
No.
Used to be really popular in the hanggliding days.
That's the front of Mint.
No, west of
West of me.
Yeah,
It's
way out front of
Yeah,
the
it's London. It'll come to
Batch Hill.
Sorry?
Batch Hill.
No.
It's just out from.
No, it's
30
30 k's, isn't it? Still, we've been there once. The other one is from
Kintosh.
Tinto. Okay.
I was going to say Model Ridge, and then you come in and squeaking through here.
Big day.
Not to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, down to there. I think that's a false colour in that line.
Tony Fillingham always used to go on hang gliders dream with the Tinto Day down there and cutting through.
Cutting through here.
No, cutting through down to the
Right.
into Ipswich.
Yeah, that'd be great as well, wouldn't it? I think there, often you'll find that sea breeze is coming quite away, so that would be a challenge. But that's going to be the case on any day, really.
Richard, what was your first cross country flight that you ever did?
I have in mind 12 kilometres, and I suspect it was weather fell.
It's always when you fairly first next to.
Where is it to?
Cambridge.
Right then? No, it was somewhere that sounds like. Where is there Hebden? Oh, there's Hebden, isn't there?
Hebden,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's Hebden. Yeah, and I live in Hebden Ridge, so I think it was near Hebden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like a 3-hour walk back or something.
Richard, you did a great disclaimer at the beginning, but you also ably demonstrated the breadth of experience in this room. And I think we ought to add to your disclaimer and say that some of the things you're looking for on a great XC day, like really boisterous thermals, like actually quite strong winds, are not ideal for novices.
Oh yeah, that'd be absolutely.
The novice who is still getting to grips with thermaling and is probably only getting a ridge soaring, that is possibly the most dangerous time to go flying.
Yeah. Going back to those red 5-star days, that should look like red for danger. It's going to be so far back. I can't find it.
But it's easy to get caught up
Yeah.
in social media. Well, it's going to be a great day flying.
This sky though,
Not for everybody.
this is a strong cross-country flying day sky. You know, these look to me like they're strong thermals. That will be super choppy. And if you've got any kind of wind in there as well, that'll be difficult conditions. It's not smooth. The closer you are to the deck, the more choppy it is in general terms. The thermals have got time to rise, they consolidate, and they spread out. They chill out.
What made me think about it is when you were talking about if it's a bit strong and there are thermals coming through, then there'll be lulls as well. Well,
Yeah.
that is one of the danger things to watch out for when you're a novice.
Yeah.
That variation in wind on the hill.
Yeah, very good.
And that's what you always get when it's therming.
Yeah, so you should always understand the high before you exploit the low. And ideally, somebody up in the air showing you it's time. So,
So you're concentrating on the league again this year?
Yep.
Is that your plan? Because you blew it because you kept doing competitions, didn't you, last year?
I did, yeah.
You were there, poised, I had no money on you.
Yeah.
And then you disappeared off for a month and missed 2 or 3 good days.
Oh, you missed that then as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
I had 4 weeks of competitions in July. Because I wasn't here for July, and that's when all the records.
So that's when South really kicked off, isn't it? You see,
Big
and that's when they all came booming.
As I was booking these things, I was thinking, oh, it's prime season. Should I be doing it? Should I be doing it? And then click the first. Do the rest. Yeah, it was a huge mistake.
Was last year the best XC league that we've had?
Yes, certainly
Pretty
for the
much,
points.
yeah.
And the people who've blown it cross country for 20, 30 years, Kirsty Cameron, who won it, she said it's the best year she's ever had.
All records broken
Yeah.
multiple times.
Yeah. And what this year holds then.
But more misery for the South because the North have won the North-South Cup 2 years. Taste of beans.
We didn't mess about last year.
Well, that's the only thing that counts, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget the XC.
Talk about Kirsty Cameron, the Cumbria Social Secretary has been in touch and they're trying to organise a night. So I think this will be end of February. Early March.
20th of February.
Oh, is it? There's a date now.
Definitely a date, yeah.
Right. So I'll send the details out for that.
For what? For Kirsty's doing it.
Kirsty's going to talk. She won the XC League last year.
No location yet, though.
No location yet. I don't think. Oh, is there?
I don't think so. It'll be somewhere in Cumbria. Hopefully, it might be
Nearer us. Yeah.
Kendal, but it might be more normal.
She could only do one day, so because we're going to try and tie something.
So someone previously said, although it was a record year for good pilots, it wasn't generally as good for.
Yeah, I made that
Everybody.
point, didn't I? There were fewer pilots who did XC flights. There were
Yeah.
more flights from fewer pilots doing a bigger overall distance.
I think there were fewer days, cross country days, but the ones that were there had potential to go a long way.
Yeah.
If you had the
As you improved.
skills or luck. But it was less flyable than a whole.
Maybe.
More of the same.
Rinse and repeat.
What's the goals other than the league?
Well, I started the year with loads of objectives, but they all fall under the category of have fun and be safe. So
Win the league.
Well, actually, I think done
That's my
mine.
best. Well, where did they?
I didn't get a personal best. I got 5 200s, and that was good. I didn't start out so well with some incidents out in Colombia, but yeah.
So tell us about acro in 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Acro in 2 minutes. So the reason I started doing acro training is skills development, and I've done a lot of 12 SIV courses, and if I'm entirely frank, it does get repetitive, just stalling. You need to do it so that it is just an automatic reaction, but just doing it for the purposes of doing it is a bit of a chore. And you know, I'd had this conversation with a number of other competition pilots who've done the same thing, lots of SIV training, then do acro, just to give it a bit more interest. Because in acro, generally speaking, cross-country pilots are doing it for skills. They're basically trying to do the most difficult manoeuvre that there is as the first thing they're trying to do. And a heli is the most difficult thing because you're holding it in a stable parachutable stall. But what you get from that, the skills to control that are directly transferable to when your wing goes out of shape cross country. So the thing that you're trying to do, for me, when I started out, it'd be like 1 time in 100 it would actually do what I wanted it to do, and every other time, you know, your way of getting out of it safely is to stall it and start it flying again. So it just makes that process so automatic, and there's no fear or trepidation. It just happens instantly, which is why you're doing it, because when it occurs in the wild, you have to deal with it very quickly. People who are young, you know, have the benefit of very fast reaction times. When you're getting on a bit, you need it to be subconscious rather than thinking about it. So I started, first I got a low B wing, ozone buzz, was flying it overloaded, as generally is the case with acro. You have a higher wind loading. And I spent 5 or 6 days over Lake Garland, just stalling, trying to do these helis all the time. I don't know how many I did, 100 odd attempts. Now I moved on to that acro wing because I found that as you can imagine, low B gliders are not designed to sit comfortably in the parachutable. If they go parachute, they're designed so they just go, oh, okay, let's fly again, with just a tiny little dive forward. If you overload, that parachutable window gets even narrower, so it was super difficult to get it stable. So I sold it on and got an acro glider which has a wider parachutable window. Well, this one's rather difficult as well. In my size particularly, the brakes are super heavy. Basically, I have to lift myself out there, push down so hard and lift myself out of the seat before it stalls. Get it in. But I'm making progress. Now I expect to get 1 clean heli entry each run. And on my very last run that I did, I got 2 consecutive clean heli entries. But the vast majority of the time, it doesn't happen like that. And I'm making a mistake and better correct it.
So was it just off YouTube videos, or have you had somebody interview?
The first, when I started out, it was just off YouTube videos, and I'm talking to, fortunately, I've got a good relationship with the SIV instructor I've been with for 6 years or so. So I get tips from them, friends who are in track pro, but the specific technique, yes, following YouTube videos. When you go to anywhere that after it's practiced, there will be the recreational pilots around and they share that experience. I've then followed that up with a macro course, how we know what it is, and that certainly made some good progress.
Okay. Cool. So next step, when you have to Columbia
Next Wednesday,
for 5 weeks.
for 5 weeks back,
That's
19th.
what, a couple of weeks of training and then
No, it's
straight.
4 weeks map competition. 1 day for the lost breads to turn up. 1 day, just 1 day, and then we into it.
Good.
So hopefully no incidents this year.
Yeah.
Maybe fall off the top step.
Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's 3 minutes past 9, so I don't know, did that work better for people? It's kind of earlier and there's a lot more informal to be able to just chat as well afterwards without rushing off.
Yeah.
Always a nice thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Definitely the best one I've been to.
So thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. Just to give you all a heads up, the next talk is